Hey everyone, it's time for some more speculation for the upcoming Guild Wars 2 expansion that is being announced soon. We have gotten some teasers for what appears to be elite specializations, and with them we also got a piece of artwork. In my last two videos I've talked about the possibilities of us going to Dashka, as well as going to Joteka for a Guild Wars Utopia based expansion. And today I want to go over another big potential option for where we are headed, and that is Dzalana. First, to briefly highlight the 4th elite specialization icon, and yeah, I'm pretty sure these are just straight up elite specializations and won't be anything else like a core trait line or shared trait lines, though we'll find out soon enough. But we have this image here of a few playing cards, which is a super interesting idea. Some people think we could be seeing a Mesmer elite specialization here, though I'm fairly confident the Bard/Minstrel one is going to be Mesmer. Some people think this could be Revenant, like a Saw Delesio Revenant, but I think the most obvious choice is Thief. The idea of cards plays well into the general themes we see with Thieves in Guild Wars 2 and in other games, and I think it would be cool to see some sort of Shadowcraft elusive gameplay mechanic where you utilize throwing cards, kind of inspired by Gambit, the Marvel character. You could have a lot of ranged based abilities with a melee weapon counterpart. Staff and Spear fit in pretty well for that idea, so maybe we'll see Greatsword added to Thief if you dive deep into that concept. But onto the speculation. One of the biggest places that we could be going to is Dzalana. This is an area of the world I have thought about a lot since the Path of Fire expansion, and I've always been interested in what is going on here. And my opinions are shared by many members of the Guild Wars 2 community, as many people have also been interested for a long time now. As we have been building up to and speculating about this upcoming expansion, Dzalana is one that I see talked about a lot. And if you are going to a Path of Fire inspired area somewhere around Alona, the Desolation, or the Crystal Desert, like I've thought we may be doing because of the color scheme of the elite specialization teasers, Dzalana fits in pretty well there, as it is heavily connected to those areas of the world and is their neighbor. Looking at the background art for the elite specialization teasers, it doesn't really fit in too well with what we see going on here. One of the big things is the larger body of water that people sail on with this boat, and looking at Dzalana, there isn't too much water that is even visible on the world map. But that doesn't mean there isn't some sort of larger lake here, which is what we could be seeing in this picture. I think it is easy to see a boat and a large body of water and instantly think we are on a coastline. But it could really be anything, even a large river like the Elon River, whose source is somewhere around Dzalana. We also have all the foliage going on in this picture, and many people have said that there is no way this could be anything close to Dzalana or Alona or the Crystal Desert, and I am most definitely not an expert on anything nearly related to this, but I do definitely get some Dashka or coastal Alona vibes, and maybe this photo is near the Elon River. As I said, I don't know too much about this. A lot of people think this could be somewhere in the Maguma jungle or even the Ecovod forest based on this picture, so we'll just have to wait and see. But one of the biggest reasons for why it could be in Dzalana is because it is what I'll call a contender. I genuinely loved the Janther Wilds expansion, and it may even be my favorite expansion we have seen for Guild Wars 2. I don't have a full proper list or a complete opinion just yet. But one of the best things this expansion has done is putting a lot of work into the general, overarching world building of Tyria and all the different societies within it, largely through the new Tyrian Alliance organization, of which we attended a few meetings of throughout the entire Janther Wild story. Mostly through these meetings, but also through some other medium like books, we have learned a lot about the state of affairs across the world, where Arena spent a lot of time in this expansion explaining what exactly is happening throughout Tyria, while setting up the potential for new stories to be picked up and expanded upon in the future. There are a lot of these, ranging from Connor shenanigans to the Pale Tree still feeling under the weather, but one of the topics that was specifically talked about in the Janther Wilds expansion is Dzalana. It was straight up name dropped, kind of like how Cantha was name dropped during the Icebrute saga. To give a brief history of this place, we have known about Dzalana since the original Guild Wars game, where it is the homeland of both the Hecate and the Harpies. As humans colonized Alona and the nearby areas, the region of Dzalana was a place that some humans looked towards, but is a very hostile area as it was filled with Hecate and Harpies. As it is bordered with Vabi, there are a lot of interactions and story hints about people from Vabi heading towards Dzalana, as well as Hecates and Harpies from Dzalana coming towards Vabi. With Palawajoko taking control of Alona between the two games, there were some Alonians, especially those from Vabi, who fled from Alona towards Dzalana and hid in the mountains there. So potentially there may be some sort of Alonian society present within the mountains, or at the very least some remainder of the refugees who went there, be it ruined camps or newer generations. After that, and with the Path of Fire expansion, Kralkatork's flight further south from the Crystal Desert branded the areas of western and southern Dzalana, corrupting everything within that swath while destroying the land. So anything that happened to specifically be right here was, of course, corrupted. And because of the dragon brand, it was significantly more difficult for people to travel to or from Dzalana, which essentially cut the two regions off from one another. But as Kralkatork has died, the dragon brand has weakened, which brings us to what we have learned about Dzalana from the Janther Wilds expansion. Chief Counselor Amon, the leader of the Free City of Amnoon, and now one of the most powerful political figures in the Elona and Crystal Desert region, chatted with Bram about Dzalana, where the newly formed Republic of Elona had begun to make small excursions into the region of Dzalana to try to learn about what has been going on in the region, to learn about threats here, and to try to make contact with anybody who is there. According to the first reports received on the region, the Harpies are still incredibly dominant and really have the upper hand in Dzalana given how mountainous of a region it is. Alongside that, there are records and rumors of both temples and settlements which warrant more of a focus from the Tyrian Alliance. The Tyrian Alliance has two big missions. One is to make contact with potential allies across Tyria to strengthen the people of Tyria against any threat that may exist. The second is to identify and deal with any of those potential threats that may exist. So Dzalana is a perfect target for the Tyrian Alliance because we could explore a new region of the world that hasn't really been explored yet and identify any threat that may exist in the region. At the very least, we can deal with some Harpies who have historically threatened Elona who are now part of our alliance. But alongside that, we can try to find any civilizations that may exist in this region, be it humans who settled here a long time ago, Elonian refugees, friendly Heka tribes, or whoever else may be here. So largely, I think this would just be a really interesting area to explore. That definitely seems like one of the places we may be going to in the next Guild Wars 2 expansion. But one really interesting piece of lore that I want to highlight, which may definitively make Dzalana being the next focus of the expansion more than anything, is its potential connection to the human gods. I've been pretty dead set that we are going to focus on Mingus in the next expansion because of the hints at the end of the Janther Wild story, how requested Mingus has been by the community, and with what would make sense with where the Guild Wars 2 story is going. With Mingus, we can really focus on a storyline related to the human gods, demons, the mists, and so on and so forth, with a large focus on the Shadow Army coming through and maybe a return to the idea of Lissa being a villain because of how she helped Balthazar return to Tyria right before the Path of Fire expansion. And if we do focus on the human gods, and if we do focus on Dzalana for the next Guild Wars 2 expansion, there is just one insanely, incredibly, excruciatingly obvious connection that we can dive deep into: the Harpies. You see, the Harpies originate from Dzalana and have spread to many areas across Elona and Ascalon and whatnot, but Harpies are deeply, deeply connected to the human goddess Duena. An Elonian legend is that Harpies are the descendants of the fallen servants of the goddess Duena who were once cast down from the heavens, where another legend states kind of the opposite, that Duena's holy guards were once Harpies who ascended up to the heavens. Duena, who is the goddess of life and deeply connected to winds in the sky, who is depicted in a very, very similar manner as a Harpy with her angelic wings. So if you do focus on a story related to the human gods, or maybe it's like a Mingus teams up with Lissa and fights Duena, Cormyr, Melandru, and Grinth, Dzalana would be a great area for this to take place, given its proximity to important locations like the Tomb of the Primeval Kings and the Mouth of Torment, with Dzalana itself being the homeland of what may basically be the children of the leader of the gods. We don't know much about Dzalana, and we don't even know if we are going to be going there, but I think there are the foundations for something truly epic to be happening in the Guild Wars 2 story. And those are just my thoughts on Dzalana. To reiterate what I've said in other videos, we won't know where we are going until it is announced, but it is super fun to think about and speculate about the upcoming Guild Wars 2 story. Please feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comments, and we can look back on all these videos and laugh about how we are actually going somewhere completely different. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.